let's take a look at some concepts that will be helpful to know about when we start. In addition to the physical setup of a cluster, there's also a logical setup. Let's see that this is my cluster, my Pulsar installation. And then when we talk about Pulsar, we're talking about things like tenants, namespaces, and then topics. Then the topics, there's also a designation between persistent topics and non-persistent topics. So let's take a bit of a look at that. This is my cluster. So I'll have a couple of servers running here, and together they form my cluster. Then inside of my cluster, I'll have one or more tenants. So let me just use this as a tenant. And a tenant is sort of like a user or an application. It's a grouping of related things. So you can see it as different departments in an organization, or different processes that could also be seen as a tenant. So this might be the finance department is a tenant, and they'll have a couple of topics that they need to produce messages to and consume from those messages. The thing is, if the finance department is going to be producing messages to a topic, then some other department, like let's say accounting, might be interested in those messages. So they can still consume messages from another tenant. It doesn't mean that you specifically need to work inside your own tenant. This is just a logical grouping of things. So there's one or many tenants in a cluster. So these are our tenants. Then inside of a tenant, there's going to be namespaces. So let's see here. I'll use this rectangle as a namespace. And that's, again, it's just another grouping, but it's a more granular thing. You can have multiple namespaces inside of a single tenant. And these things are sort of like packages in Java, or namespaces in C++ or C#. They group together things within a tenant. So if a tenant is the same thing as an application, then namespaces would be the same thing as packages. And then each individual topic inside of a namespace could be seen as a class. So this could be topic 1, topic invoices, topic orders. So all in all, this stuff comes together, and we need to address a specific topic by going to its tenant, then the namespace, and then the topic name. Speaking of topics, let's take a look at the two designations when it comes to topics. I'm going to simply reuse this. So in the first case, we have topics. Let's see here. I'll just call this topic logs. And this is a non-persistent topic. That means these messages are not persisted anywhere inside of the cluster. But that doesn't mean that they can't be consumed. So with a non-persistent topic, if a message gets produced and there is a consumer available, then that consumer will be getting that message. If there aren't any messages, then that message it won't be persisted. You won't be able to read it afterward. In this case, there has to be a consumer ready to accept that message and process it. So then the opposite of that would be a persistent topic. And let me put this data storage thing here. These messages coming in on a persistent topic, they get saved to storage within a cluster. And there's a couple of config properties that dictate how long they stay there, which is pretty important when it comes to things like, let's say, orders or any kind of message that needs to be saved. In case processing doesn't work or a consumer goes offline, then the message is still available to be consumed later when a consumer eventually comes online again. So that's for topics. Now, there's not really anything special about producers. They simply produce messages, send it to the cluster. But there might be something to be said about consumers. So let me use this thing as the illustration. Let's say we have 3 consumers, and they're all reading from topic orders. All of these consumers are part of a single application, and that one is responsible for processing orders. In such a case, these consumers, they are the individual parts of something bigger. Let me see here to front, known as a subscription. So this rectangle here, that's the subscription. And within the subscription, there'll be a couple of consumers that belong to that subscription. Let me see here, subscription 1. Now, this becomes important when we look at who consumes the messages and what's going on there. So within this single subscription, if it reads from topic order, we're guaranteed that every message that comes in on this topic orders will be consumed by one of these consumers. But all in all, the single subscription will be getting every single message. But now we might have another application that needs to consume those messages as well. Because we're using topics, we can have multiple consumers or applications read from the same topic. In that case, we'll create another subscription. Let's say subscription number 2, that's the name. And then the same counts for this as well. It will receive every single message that came in on that topic. So there's a bit of a redundancy here, or a duplication, only towards the subscriptions. Nowhere is it duplicated in storage, for instance. So this is the most basic theory, I guess, for Pulsar that we need to know. And it also makes it a lot easier when we work with it and we start implementing some of the code. So yeah, let's get started with writing a producer, and then we'll see how this works.